Haha. Okay. Echo stood up a little straighter, her eyes fixed on the shining scimitar. A first sword? What an honor. Let's get you measured up then. I'm sure I have just the thing for you. She scurried back behind the counter and returned with a battered leather suitcase, which she placed on the floor on Echo's feet, before flicking open the brass clamps and opening it out. Inside, one half of the case was covered in dials and switches, while the other was empty and lined with soft brown velvet. There were 2 indents in the velvety surface, like boot prints in mud. Please step in, the red-haired woman said. Echo stared at the case. What in the 7 skies was the woman going to do with her? She only wanted a cutlass. She swallowed and looked at Lil. In there, she said, pointing at the indents. Go on, said Captain Lil. I'm sure it's quite safe. Conchita Custard's been fitting sky pirates with their first cutlasses since before you were born. Although I have to admit, I haven't seen this particular method before. Oh yes, it's the latest technology. The bivalve ATHO-powered Fitomatic 6000 selects the perfect blade every time, said Conchita. Echo stepped into the foot-shaped indents and waited nervously while Conchita fiddled with the knobs and dial in the lid of the contraption. There was a whirring sound and Echo jumped as she felt the footbeds close gently around her feet, as if they were being gently squeezed by 2 giant hands. With a creak, something sprang out of the case behind her back and extended towards the ceiling. She looked up to find a huge brass claw opening above her. Stand perfectly still, said Conchita, just taking a few measurements. The claw opened and encircled Echo's head with its splayed prongs before gently grasping her skull. There was some more whirring. The red-haired woman muttered under her breath as she continued to flip switches and frowned at the meter. Oops, dropped the pen. Stretch both arms out to the side. We don't want to break that pen. She said, like this. She spread both arms out like wings. Echo copied and couldn't help giggling as the claw released her head and disappeared behind her. Now, 2 long brass arms popped out of the slot somewhere near her toes of her boots. They extended until they encircled her wrists. Then the machine beeped. The arms slid back into the case with a clunk, and Echo felt the footholds released their grip on her boots. There was a humming noise that vibrated right through the soles of her feet, and a reel of printed paper came rattling out of an opening in the machine. Conchita pulled it free and put her glasses onto her nose to examine it. Can I get out now? Said Echo, eager to be free of the case. Yes, yes. Conchita absent-mindedly waved her away, still absorbed in the printout from the Fitomatic. What does it say? Asked Echo. What sort of sword would a machine have chosen for her? A vicious cutlass with a wolf engraved hilt like Lil's, or maybe a smaller but no less deadly gleaming steel blade like Flora's. Or perhaps even a clunky yet razor-sharp machete like the one Bulkhead sometimes carried in his belt. Interesting, said Conchita. A smile broke out on her face, and she looked at Echo with new enthusiasm. An interesting prescription for an interesting sky pirate. It seems a lava-forged rapier is in order. A rapier? Said Lil, frowning, but that's not much of a pirate sword. Well, the Fitomatic says it quite clearly. Conchita waved the printout at Lil. Couldn't you just measure her up in the usual fashion? Echo could hear the disappointment in Lil's voice, and her own stomach whirled. Conchita shook her head. Afraid not, the Fit-O-Matic is always right, and I have just the thing. Now, where is it? She took out a small copper-riveted stepladder and cranked the handle until it extended upwards with a small hiss of steam. She climbed up to the very top shelf, revealing buttoned black boots beneath her many layers of petticoats. After rooting around on the shelf, she finally found what she was looking for and returned with one of the long, slim boxes. It was disintegrating with age and covered in cobwebs. It must be a very old special one. Gilbert emerged from Echo's collar and cocked an inquisitive eye as Conchita opened the box, sending a family of spiders scurrying across the floor. She pulled out the short, straight sword about the length of Echo's forearm and unsheathed it from its scabbard. It was dull grey, skinny, and perfectly straight with a pointed tip. Echo looked at the little mottled blade, and her stomach grew heavy with disappointment. Even the Fit-O-Matic seemed to know she wasn't much of a sky pirate. Want to try her? Echo swallowed and nodded. Thank you, she said, taking the hilt in her hand. The little sword was light and comfortable in her grip, despite its small size, and to Echo's surprise, it seemed to fit perfectly in her hand. She waved the blade like Lil had, feeling silly as she didn't really know what to do, but the sword gave a pleasing zing as it cut through the air. Maybe this was the right sword for her after all. She smiled at Lil. It doesn't look like your cutlass. That's because it's not a cutlass, said Lil, taking the sword and examining it. It's a rapier, but it's probably safer for a beginner. Her name is Stinger, said Conchita, crafted by famed swordsmiths of the Scrimshaw volcano forges, and only 70 doubloons, she said. What do you say? Lil put Stinger back on the counter. Echo held her breath. Mum? Mother? Lil looked at the drawstring pouch and frowned. I suppose there's no chance of a discount for old time's sake, she asked. Afraid not, said Conchita with a firm smile. Lil emptied out the contents of her purse onto the counter and counted out the last of the gold coins in the 7 neat piles. 70 doubloons it is. Conchita sheathed the little sword and handed it to Echo. Take care of her and she'll take care of you, Echo. I will, said Echo, feeling the weight of the blade in her hands. Gilbert scuttled down her arm and flicked out his tongue, then cocked his head at Echo in a way that said, impressive. Come on, said Lil, tipping her hat at Conchita. Let's get back to the ship. I think you're in need of some fighting lessons. Echo hugged Stinger close to her chest and followed Lil out, unable to stop herself from smiling. It might not be a cutlass, but it was still her own sword. Perhaps she was a real sky pirate after all. Oh, next chapter. Okay, well, we'll start the next chapter next time. We can read the first sentence. Echo followed Lil down the cramped corridors of the Scarlet Margaret to the armory. Lil had allowed Horace to come too, and although he hadn't really wanted to, being somewhat allergic to fighting lessons, Echo's pleading had finally persuaded him to tear himself away from his Beetle books he'd been reading and to join her. Oh, we'll find out more about that next time. Good night, beautiful Baba. Did you catch it? Okay, one for me. Ha ha! Good night, sweet dreams, Baba.